Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel on finding your path to your best emotional and physical health. And as always, please feel free to share this information with anybody that you feel needs it, especially if you like what you hear. So also don't forget to subscribe because we want as many people to see this work as possible, and you want to get notified of new videos as they come out almost every day. Also, please don't forget to download your 5 free videos, which will help get you your foundation to your best emotional physical health and some kind of general strategies to get organized and get you moving forward. So with that, let's get into today's topic, which is going to be about kind of the progression of recovery from complex PTSD, because this series has been going on about the trauma responses that happen to people that have issues when they're children with their parental figures and their caregivers and things like that, that emerge into a different kind of PTSD reaction than the typical one that we might see that emerges later on in life. And it also sets them up for additional traumas, and we'll kind of get into that in future videos as well. So the interesting part about recovering from this PTSD and complex PTSD and childhood trauma is that it definitely will take a long time, but that isn't to be disheartened, because there are a lot of things that can be done kind of almost immediately to start moving forward and making those changes, especially as you start developing better relationships in your life, because those relationships will be the foundation for moving forward and getting healthy. So one of the very first steps, of course, is what you're doing now, which is psychoeducation and understanding what is going on with you, what happened to you when you were younger, and those kinds of things. And you need to understand those pieces in order to decide, make that decision. Do I want to move forward and make changes in my life, or am I okay living my life the way it is? Because that's still a choice to be made. But if there are certain parts of your life that are unfulfilled and unhappy and you want to move forward, then that is something that you definitely want to do. So let's talk about some of the positives of that moving forward and healing from this kind of trauma. Mindfulness is also going to be a big component of understanding yourself and engaging in life fully and learning to recover, because we spend a lot of times avoiding things, either through activities or TV or addictions, all of that, avoiding feelings and pushing those down. And learning to deal with that is going to be key to growing and creating the most fulfilling life, because we need to disconnect from that idea that we should be happy all the time. TV, media, all of that kind of tells us, oh, we need to be this way all the time, and we need to be chasing this. Buy this product and you'll be happy. Do this activity and you'll be happy. And that's just not realistic. We have a full emotional experience that's open to us, the ups and the downs. And while we definitely want to aim for at least contentment most of the time, to be content with that and to understand that the downs won't last very long and the ups hopefully will outweigh them, because that's just how life is. First of all, we wouldn't have ups if we didn't have downs, because if everything was up, then it would seem normal, right? And seem like the average or the median or whatever you want to call it. So you kind of have to understand that we need downs to have ups. We also just need to understand throughout recovery that we have to really kind of work in as a whole person. And we have to understand that there's going to be a lot of body work involved and somatic work, because we have to change that reactivity, because we've kind of programmed our bodies to do that reaction, that fear-based response, that it's just programmed because it started as a little kid, and that's what you do in this certain situation. You have this fear response, and then you go into that kind of trauma response, and you have the fight versus fawn and the flight versus freeze and those kinds of things, where we have to learn to balance. And we'll get into what those look like a little bit in other videos, but balance, asserting your needs versus other in the fight versus fawn responses, and flight versus freeze. You need to balance that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, because when they're out of balance, then they create the negative reactions that we're trying to avoid. So that's some of the other things that you're going to face in recovery. One of the bigger steps after you kind of increase that mindfulness and kind of understand these things is learning how to shrink that critic, that inner critic that comes and is developed based upon the messages we were given as children. That we have to kind of grieve the childhood losses and develop that idea that we are okay and that we are whole as we are and that we can kind of grow. So all those developmental failures need to be healed with time. So those are some of the things that you have to consider as part of the progression. If I could give you one key to understanding healing from these things, it's learning to cultivate patience with recovery, because we're not going to have a steady road of just up, 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 up. It's just not how it works. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. And unfortunately, with people that have developed this kind of trauma response, they get that very black and white thinking where it's like, oh, everything has to be progression right now, and we need to get better. So they don't always acknowledge what's been accomplished and the changes that they have made. They're focused more on what hasn't been made. So kind of learning to, that's part of mindfulness, learning to cultivate that mindful, like this has made some progress and I will continue to get better and it will continue to kind of look like this, a slow mountain climbing up, right? But with ups and downs as well. Kind of like the stock market is what it should look like. It's going to have ups and it's going to have downs, but you want it to consistently climb up. So, but just not in a straight line. So the beauty of recovery is it actually can change our neural networks and change the pathways in our brain. So we have to kind of cultivate those almost like a garden. We have to understand that too much stress in an environment is going to actually cause damage to our brains and in inflammation and cause all kinds of things. That's why when we talk about brain health, we're always talking about stress management and things like that, and how that kind of affects overall our health. And we need to understand that too little stress or kind of withdrawn is going to lead to pruning, because your brain, and this is what I mean by pruning, your brain decides, well, I don't need these neural networks to manage this because we're not ever facing this. So the more times that we are shut down and isolated without stress or facing some of that, then we can end up with too much pruning in our brain. So those are some of the reasons to move forward and learn to pace your recovery and develop a sense of realistic expectations about what it is like to move forward and to heal and to build yourself a better life. So that's all I have for today. We'll get into more details of these different trauma types as we go along. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best I can. I'll let you know when we're going to schedule a question and answer session live so that you can get on and interact with other people that have these same kind of questions. And also connect with me on the website if you think you need some personal coaching on how to move forward on some of these things or what your next step is. So thanks everybody and have a great day.